Just a long lost look in your eyes brings out a love that I can't disguise. So take me down to the places I've never seen. Oh, don't you try to kill me with kind. It's just your love that's driving me wild. Oh, from the dawn we rise, with the heart we cry, into the light we go, into the light we go. From the darkest night, from the fire inside, into the light we go, into the light we go, into the light we go.
Welcome back, guys. We're taking a look at some of the highlights of Game 1, KSV over Jin Air GreenWings. It was pretty straightforward. Clean macro play from KSV, as you always expect. They took the victory in about 43 minutes.
You'll notice there is a lot in common with these clips, though. As you keep rolling on, it's basically that dies first in basically every clip because he was picked trying to make things happen, was piled on. And from there, the victory went the way of KSV. Really nice prediction here. They, of course, had the vision to know he entered the brush and made the educated guess he was going for an aggressive recall. Unfortunately for on this tank Jax, the team wasn't playing around what he provided, a bit of initiation. They were allowing the Bannon to kind of win the game with Jin Air. They weren't really contesting, and then at the end of the day, someone had to look silly. It ended up being the Jax.
Yeah, it certainly did. But at the end of the day, you can't really blame everything on him. I feel like KSV also had a pretty nice game. Ambition looked really good on the Skarner that they first picked for him. He did have the one hiccup where he was going for his Spire, his love. But at the end of the day, he was always on top of getting those juicy frontline targets and bringing them back into his team.
And something Jin opted into, they banned Sejuani Zach on red side, prompting the first pick Skarner. They weren't able to find any advantage. MVP's actually going to go to Core JJ. First victory on the Rakan as Zaya Rakan picks up their first win for KSV. So they'll feel good about that because that's a duo they will need to play as we get into the best-of-5 stage in the playoffs.
Yeah, certainly Core JJ was always there for the follow-up. I think Ambition was really the one that was starting up the engages, but 100% kill participation, he was always there. I mentioned early on it was Crown, Ambition, and Core JJ, the three of them that were roaming around the map, making the macro plays. He was roaming into mid. He was there to try to get onto Umti. And yeah, he had a pretty good game. So I can't really argue with that. Let's take a look at some of these graphs.
Well, end up being the triple 612 coming through from Jax. 1,898 damage for the full tank Jax this time. Less than Braum. Not good.
I mean, he essentially jumped in with Counter-Strike and died, so can you really blame him? He was doing like 80 damage every time he hopped in, so.
It's funny to laugh at, but a symptom of a bigger problem where Jin Air didn't have an answer to what KSV was doing. They were too slow in the early game, and then Umti, you know, he was the only person going for an engage, and you need to end this patch 8.4 Bannon meta. So we move into game 2, KSV looking into control, looking good, no substitutions coming through from either team. We'll see what happens when we shift sides. Jin Air will be on blue side for game number 2. Maybe pick up that big first pick jungler.
Well, let's see if they can actually do that as we're going to jump into ban and pick for game number 2 right now. Here we go, hopping onto the blue side is Jin Air and a first ban on Forest once again.
Seems like KSV now have Galio on blue and red side ban territory. Was true for them in 2016 if at Worlds they had to ban the Syndra on blue and red side, and Crown was eventually able to incorporate that champion, but so far the Galio has eluded him. See if Jin Air tries to pinch, because it seems like a first pick jungler is what they're setting up for. Good double ban once again on the blue side.
Yeah, it's exactly mirrored from game number 1 by both teams. Only thing that's changed is the sides, and once again we have Zach banned by Jin Air.
We just see another AD carry ban from KSV, and then Xayah Rakan on red side with not really too much power to answer it. Tristana could be banned on red side here if they want. Seeing how KSV look at the draft though. Trying to think a few phases ahead to get themselves the biggest advantage on red side.
Could just go for the Olaf again if they want to target a jungler and not let them first pick it, but they decide to take away the Talia from Grace.
Interesting. So Skarner and Olaf are up. Olaf is picked into that matchup many times because he can invade the Skarner very cleanly. It also fits Umti's playstyle. So no surprise that the first pick is onto the Olaf. Does Ambition say whatever and just take the Skarner anyway in terms of the power of junglers available? That'll be fun to find out.
Well, he came to watch KSV win. Cool hat. Some of you guys might recognize that, but Xayah Rakan just going to be picked up in the end on the red side once again.
And do they roll back the Tristana Braum or go a different way when it comes to the support? I think the Tristana will be locked in here. So waiting to see what the support choice is with the Tristana. Didn't really get much value out of the Braum, but kind of hard to dissect whether that was on the pick or just about the play style for Jin Air in game 1. They used their full time to lock in at the Tristana, but also just take the Azir early if they want it, and they will. So basically saying that the enemy team has to choose between junglers being banned or this Vel'Koz being banned, and they don't think very long. And Crown's so happy to lap up his Vel'Koz another time. We're ready to see some more science on the Rift. Does mean that Jin Air will eat some jungle bans. Will we see something creative out of Ambition? That's going to be a fun thing.
Yeah, I mean, he'd certainly love to get back on his comfort, something really tanky, something that can farm. And with this many bans, well, we're taking a look at Crown and the reason why he plays so much Vel'Koz.
Talk about the matchup in-game, but Vel'Koz very much likes the matchup into Azir. Waiting on Jin Air, and they will ban away the Skarner, even though Olaf is strung into it, to take away as much comfort as possible. If you look at Ambition, played Sejuani, Jarvan, Rengar, Zac as his big picks in the Skarner that we just saw. Always an outside chance to the Kha'Zix. But if they just ban away the Jarvan, then we're definitely getting towards the dregs of his champion pool.
How about a Volibear, Papa Smithy?
I would love to see a Volibear.
One time for LCK? Would Ambition do it for us? Kha'Zix is going to be targeted, which means that Jarvan definitely sticks its face out for Ambition.
Seems that's going to be the inevitable lock-in. I'm surprised they would rather him on Jarvan compared to the Kha'Zix, given that Kha'Zix has a more limited game plan. Does have the ability to all-in the Olaf at certain points, but... And you're thinking of Invader's advantage, and that doesn't sound like Ambition at all. So, surprisingly, Jarvan left open. Looking to Jin Air's side. Might be varying up the support, even though Braum is left open. This would require them to actually win lane and roam to get the full value out of the Thresh, but cool to see Wraith on a playmaker this time. Could also be another exit for the Olaf if he goes for the wrong invade. Waiting finally for the top lane. Blind pick, Camille available, but it went through picks and bans in game 1. Gnar and Camille seem like the conspicuous top laners that are available in this draft. There's also been no top lane bans, but this is how things go.
Well, if Cuvée just wanted to go back on the Gnar, he certainly could. It's sitting there waiting for him, but so on ahead of the game. Will he go into the carry matchup?
He will.
He will. There it is. Fiora going to be locked in.
That's pretty hyped to see from Cuvée, who on the red side is finally starting to flex his muscles a bit. We've had a season where in similar scenarios, you'll lock in Gnar, you'll lock in Maokai, he'll go into a tank, a Cho'Gath, for example. Now he's starting to once again be the cool, calm, and collected Cuvée that was basically a contract killer when we got around to Worlds, and his champion pool was in a great spot. The carries are back, and that is a fun place to be in, because that's not been a side of Cuvée we've seen. Second Fiora of the season.
Yeah, and he's not going into the easiest matchup of all time. Definitely lots of pressure on him to perform up against Sohan. feel like pretty much everybody in the world would rank QV ahead of Soan at this point. I've been one of the guys that's been mentioning, like, hey, Soan is getting better. He actually is not just a free lane for anyone who goes up against him anymore, but certainly QV has the stats and the awards to prefer him in that matchup.
It's also a matchup that swings towards the side of the Fiora, not in a massive way, but certainly 60-40, you would say, to the Fiora. The Vel'Koz is going to happily farm against the Azir, and bot lane is Zyra Rakan. Now, they've reinforced the bot lane with a Thresh, so they have more ranged options and can interrupt the battle dance, even with the longer range on the Zyra Rakan synergy. So there's potential for them to find some advantages there, but you worry that the Olaf will situationally have 2 to 3 losing lanes at different times, and thus we will see Omti exposed on the invade. So Predator Olaf, the big thing they were able to claim with the first pick, getting value from it with this draft, a bit trickier.
Well, here we go, guys. The countdown has started. Let's jump into game number 2 for KSV versus Jin Air. Whoa. Jin Air, they've come out to play. Looking to support their team as much as possible.
Juve in love with this ancient coin start on the Fiora. Did this against the Rumble coming through from Smeb last series against KT Roll. So that was a loss, but I understand the thought behind it, showing respect. It'll be a fun game here in game number 2. And look at Ambition. He's also liking what Trick was showing us last week. Predator Jarvan for the second time in the LCK. All about getting in position at the right time. We could just see 2 Predators show up in a lane. That's going to be fun to think of. Haven't had much Predator versus Predator.
Yeah, I mean, the Olaf certainly is one of the guys that uses it the best, but Jarvan, we've seen it was pretty good when Trick brought it out. And Ambition overall, he's been a very good Jarvan player. He's 3-1. And he showed some really nice cataclysms, especially early on in the season.
I want to talk about this level 1 before we deep dive into Ambition, because you'll notice that Olaf actually started on the Raptors with no leash and allowed his bot lane to rush to level 2 first to truly try to abuse, because bot lane had no presence in the Braum Tristana lane in game 1. Jin Air are trying to rectify that by sacrificing the jungle speed of the Olaf. Not usually a concern, he'll still be able to power farm, and allowing their bot lane to reach lane first and try to get lane control. So that's an adjustment here from Teddy and Wraith, and a welcome one, because they want to get as much lane power as possible to allow the Olaf to be a bit more wanton with his engages.
Yeah, let's see where MT wants to go in terms of going for a gank. You mentioned all the losing lanes. Perhaps he could set something up against QV. Or will he actually invade onto Ambition? Ambition certainly has some opportunities in terms of a gank. Perhaps it can make something happen on the Grace in the mid lane.
People wondering about the Ancient Coin start. We see this for laners. Pretty situational, especially with Klepto. It's about gold generation. See this on Nasus. This was actually a big meta thing on Nasus in patch 8.1 and 8.2. It's because you'd be zoned away for some creeps, and especially if you're having no jungle visits top side, maybe you need to get the extra regen or mana regen or gold generation on the minions you miss. Also, the Bandit does proc on patch 8.4, so don't try this one at home. Even though it reads Bandit on patch 8.5, Bandit has been removed, hotfixed from the support items. So support in lane doesn't really work anymore, but on patch 8.4, which we are on the entire week, it is still a very viable choice for the Fiora.
You'll notice that Ambition changes up his route just a bit. He doesn't go for any of the Rift Scuttlers here. He just clears his own jungle. He doesn't want to run into the Olaf and the river and maybe die to the combination of Umti and Grace. But look at this, level 4 gank trying to get the Lantern in here, but no hook. Will even be thrown out as Ruler and KorJJ make it out.
Could have chance trading flashes and then look for the chase, but they're so close to that turret. There's no real way for Omti to chase down. He has the water walking, as you can see.
Comes in and smites it. Ambition doesn't have his smite, so will give that one away.
Actually a worthwhile smite because it gives a lot of control to the bot lane, and they put a lot into trying to get Tristana and the Thresh the lane advantage by allowing them to enter lane straight away. Get to look at the runes here. We knew about the Kleptomancy. Pretty standard as standard can be. Biscuit delivery for laning control. The bone plating and second wind that you always assume when it's a top laner taking resolve second. No resolve second for Sowan. He wants to brawl. Has gone for the Comet. Not going for the Comet this time either. Gone for press the attack. So we don't see this very often on the Camille.
Ooh, Kive's getting in there. He's going to have one last auto attack on the top side. Not going to come through as Sohan hookshotting his way away. Comes on a ward now. Kive will back out of there and be safe.
Team bot side this time. Things not as smooth for Core JJ. Again, surprising to see press the attack. Doesn't really interact with the true damage element of the Q, which of course is the majority of the damage in the late game. But can still potentially mean different trades. Doesn't have Comet for lane control. Has this press the attack, which may be very useful for the Tristana in the late game, given the fact that the eventual 12% amp does apply to everyone. Again, we're on 8.4, so press the attack is not necessarily the strongest on this patch. 4% to 12% scaling on the ally damage compared to the higher 8% on the current patch.
Yeah, I mean, if you see yourself getting into really extended trades against the Fiora, perhaps it does make sense, but overall, we'll have to wait and see exactly how that happens. Crown level 6, he's rotating down here, and it will not happen. I also want to mention, I was taking a look at the gold difference in the top side. You'll notice that Q is ahead 3 minions, but he's also ahead 600 gold, as you do.
Double gold generation is obviously lovely to opt into, and because it's a good matchup for the Fiora. Getting Ninja Tabi enemy against just infinite gold generation for QV. So he's feeling fantastic.
Yeah.
Getting the most out of the Fiora in the team fighting phase has been tricky as we're trying again.
The flash play is going to get them. Olaf in the front, and the hook lands on the ruler. That should be the first blood. They give it over to Teddy. Really nicely done. In the mid lane, Grace does make his way out of danger.
Really clean stuff coming through from Wraith. Invests his flash to give them maximum journey on the Lantern, and then hits all of his spells to pick up the kill. Really good to see. Able to punish. Doesn't get any summoners from the bot lane. The kill going on to Teddy. Maybe that 3 items coming a bit earlier in game 2.
He's going to have an ice back here, 60 minions and the first blood kill. Let's take another look at this.
Some cool Lantern plays as recently as yesterday in Challenger, and this one gets the beautiful Lantern play into the hook. Perfect play coming through from Wraith. Both summers up, didn't matter for Ruler. He goes down anyway. Now we actually see Ambition on the invade. Not going to lead to too much around the mid lane.
Yeah. We find ourselves asking a similar question: why not flash or even heal? At the time after you get hooked, of course, no reason to heal because you're already dead. But if you flash the hook, you probably have a Xayah that survives at the end of that. I'll hold that thought as Sohan is taking some really nice trades up in the top side.
Has gone Q-Max. We've seen a lot of different maxes recently, so W-Max into Gangplank a couple of times, but with no Comet. Not expecting there to be multiple points into the W. Definitely going to get the most value from the press of the attack if you have an auto attack cancel, which is what Q represents. As Umti's spotted on his invade.
He's staying here. Kive thinking about a challenge. No ward to put down just yet, just face checks it. After all, he knows he's got Ambition right behind him, but they got to be careful about this. He's going to riposte the stun, but you got the Hextech ultimatum. No way to get out of this. Thankfully, Ambition's there to help out, and the Cataclysm comes in. Now Crown is going to help out here, and it looks like they went a little bit too far that time around.
Yeah, too much relentless aggression. Previously, they had position as Grace would have roamed first, but by the time you're going basically to where the inner turret is, of course, the Azir will get there before you do, and now double buffs go on to Crown. We know that Umti likes to be aggressive, but it's all about controlled aggression. That was not controlled, and that gives a big lead to the enemy team. Watch the replay. So far, so good. Pops the ult very early, ostensibly for damage, you would say. But unfortunately, Hextech Ultimatum is only 4 seconds at level 1, and then he's isolated from the rest of his team. How's Grace going to be able to respond there? Very questionable stuff from Umti.
It looked like it ended early. Maybe he got hit out of the ultimatum by the blasting plants. Would like to see another replay, but either way, QV did make his way out of there. The one thing I wanted to mention is that you were looking at a Camille with Ninja Tabi first and cooldown boots first, of course, on the Olaf. So there wasn't a lot of damage to be burst out there, and regardless of if he hit him out of the ultimatum or not, he certainly bought himself some time for Ambition to come in. Okay, someone died in the bottom lane. Looks like it's Teddy.
And all in, and Teddy actually had his summoners up. That's really awkward, only caught the tail end of it. The first part of the CC comes through. That's usually enough. But that's a big one for the side of KSV.
It's only fair. You know, Ruler gives his life with all his summoners up. Teddy to do the same.
Watching the replay here. First part hits, tries to juke forward, but didn't have the range for that. No ability to hit the Lantern. Another 80 carry dies with both summoners up. Yeah. Okay, it's becoming a contagion in that bot lane.
It was too fast for the Observer to catch, as that is the nature of Xayah Rakan if you get fully engaged upon with no way out.
Through all of this, Crown is happily farming on the Azir, so on the Vel'Koz, which has great options against the Azir. We mentioned a couple of times. Can still do damage through the ultimate from the Azir, which is a very powerful thing for him. Have to play defensively here. As we're seeing the Drake started, but once again gallivanting in.
CoreJJ trying to make his way out of here. The question is, does Ambition survive? He flashes, has CoreJJ jumped in, but the 3-man scoop! That's gonna be one going down, make it two! Double kill to Teddy as he's moving on to Ruler. Will he go deep? The answer is no, but a double kill. Nicely played by Jin Air.
Really nice play by Grayson. That time, Crown had no way to get in and actually force damage, even with the sheer advantage of the range on the Vel'Koz. He's turning in here, looking to burst.
Will it be enough damage? Grace, no way out, and finally he gets to the edge. Just barely not enough.
So close, only lost chapter for damage, and yet almost burst him through. Crown looking to contest, doesn't have vision of that brush, but back away, but man, seeing the potential of the Vel'Koz, and that's before the damage even gets rolling.
Well, you can tell he's played this champion before, that's for certain. Very, very close in terms of trying to trade back a kill, but at the end of it all, the double kill in the ocean to the side of Jin Air.
Seeing the replay here, feeling confident. We already saw a fight where his mid laner was zoned out. This was beautiful, got the bonus, the bonanza, getting the Ruler of all people, who was in the brush, waiting and unwaiting. Didn't end up dying, but was scooped in, pressured them out, got the first strike, and ocean for laning. Certainly something you can enjoy. New wave in mid lane starts to be pushed up. That was a big confidence booster for the side of Jin Air. For now, KSV looking to try to slam Grace in the mid lane.
Yeah, there's no vision, and it looks like CoreJJ going to be the one to engage here, trying to get the knock up, and there it is at the Cataclysm. No way out with all the rest of the CC. Nicely played by KSV.
Bit of a freight train coming through. There was no way to escape. Even the shifting sands over the wall wasn't going to be enough. Thresh second to react that time after the smart roam timing coming through from CoreJJ. Game very finely poised. 1,000 gold lead to KSV.
Ambition traveling through the jungle. See you later. A hook into the back. Will he have some help though? Here comes CoreJJ. No way to get Olaf out, but not enough damage as Ambition survives somehow.
Feels like every aggressive move is being turned around. This one so close to being turned around by Crown. Unable to get the kill. Love the hook mid-air from Wraith, whose Thresh is definitely inspiring us after being a pick that he hasn't gone to this season with any regularity. Again, we're trying to pick up the pieces. So much has happened decisively one way or the other, but not to the point of there being a decisive lead. About 1,000 gold towards KSV, and a lot of that on the top side with all the gold generation that QV has in his build.
Yeah, I mean, the trades up on the top side, they're all even. Does Sowan want to take it a step further? He's got Olaf to help him out. That Hextech ultimatum was actually reposted. No way to get on in there. QV trying to trade it back, but no way out afterwards, as Sowan will be able to pick up the kill.
Instead of the sick outplay, but if you repost the first ability, it's not there for any of the rest of them. Definitely like it. Definitely bodes well for future attempts at the all-in, but not enough to keep alive the Fiora. We'll see if they can actually engineer a game plan around the Fiora. It's a very strong four-man team, and the idea of having the Fiora split push makes a lot of sense with how much long-range poke they have when they group as four, but feels like recently Fioras have been struggling to find an identity as the game goes on. We've seen Crazy try it, we've seen QV himself tried against KT Rolster. When the items start rolling and things get better, but for now, it's ended up being free food for So1 and Umti.
Struggling to stay in there. This game is quickly turning into, you know, Camille's got a kill. She's feeling pretty good, but it's Teddy with 3 and Crown with 2 on the side of KSV. He's certainly going to be really farmed up. Highest minion score in the game, as well as 2 kills.
He needs to push in the bot side. Crown's gold is going to turn into a very early Archangel. It's pretty standard to have the overshield for the potential all-in, and there will be an all-in at some point. It's not quite the Galio he was dealing with on his first Vel'Koz game, but Hextech Ultimatum and an Olaf doesn't sound like the most fun. Again, I'm mostly interested to see how things go for QV. He's gone heavy on the gold generation, feeling good about the gold they've picked up so far. Looking at the comparison head-to-head, gotta say, pretty good thing for Umti outside of the deep invade onto the red side jungle. It's largely been successful on the Olaf. First pick jungler got the work done in game 1 with Skarner. This time it's the Olaf. So good to see Umti continue to be aggressive. He seems to know his role in this game is to be the conduit for the good news action for Jin Air in game 1 and game 2, sorry. And so far, 100% kill participation for the Olaf.
Certainly looks a bit better outside of the one hiccup early on in the game. Crown picks up a very early stopwatch. You mentioned all of those threats. Certainly picking up this early of a stopwatch is one way to deal with that. Also gets the cooldown. Boots can help the summoners. Liking the itemization so far. Looking for the all-in here as Grace kind of glitches back towards the turret.
Yeah, the visual lag there was a bit strange, but all we need to know is that he ended up getting away. And the flash expended by Grace. A lot of fighting around the river. Waiting to see some value out of the Predator from Ambition. We still haven't seen that one be big from Trick the one time we saw it, but when it comes to getting into position for ganks, it certainly could be powerful.
That was closer than it looked. They had the option to continue on there if the hook landed.
His first game on the Olaf got him one of his few MVPs this season, and one of the treats was 4-minute Ocean Drake solo down. So definitely had a lot of Drake priority in that game. With Infernal being the second spawn, no surprises that Jin Air looked to want to pick it up to add to the Ocean they got earlier.
KSV doing a good job coming in here as a team, try to clear up all that vision. Earlier there were 2 control wards from Jin Air, but now there's 2 from KSV as the Infernal about to spawn here. See exactly how far they want to go with this. Ambition going to be scouted here, has to use Flag and Drag to just get out of the brush.
Crown is in a control ward, not spotted.
He's got to be careful about that, but actually gets the initiation with a bit of damage onto Wraith.
Happy to control space, allows KSV to deny one potential entry to the Infernal and delay any sort of an attempt for it from Umti. This time he walks up, they'll get the control ward. Everyone lying in wait. Who's flanking who is always what you think at these moments.
Well, he's going to go on to Grace here, who does have the option to get out, but will just stand his ground with half health. It's very tense around this big objective. The Infernal will be pretty huge for either side. Carries in the top lane, and of course, Crown and Ruler would love to pick that up, as well as the Azir, Grace, and Teddy looking for that Infernal.
If you're investing the teleport, So1 will have the big teleport advantage, given how much more reliable the Camille is with the teleport than the Fiora, but no deep wards for the flanking Hextech Ultimatum. Also the worry that if they go for a teleport play, that QV will take a turret to answer it, but Infernal is started by Ambition, not fully committing to it yet.
These 2 on a ward, and they don't know it yet. Thinking about an engage, but the hook is going to hit Ruler in the front, and he can't get out. The Featherstorm is going to save him for now, but Grace on the backside is going to take him out. So1 comes in with the TP, and he gets on the ground here. Is there enough damage? There's that stopwatch, but no way out from there. Another kill over to the Camille. Make that 2 as they take a huge fight, and the Infernal to follow up.
Wraith was so smart with that play. He never showed that he knew that Ruler and Core JJ were in the brush until he hit the hook onto Ruler to start the festivities. Excellently done by the Thresh to bait KSV into a false sense of security. They do lose a turret on the top side, but worth it with how many kills they piled on.
Certainly. So the Infernal gonna come in here to Jin Air, and let's take a look at the replay.
Watch Wraith. And consider that he had vision this entire time. Ruler walks back in. They knew Core JJ was there as well. Hits onto Ruler, so with the extra information, should have been better from him. Wasn't clean from Ruler. They turn onto Crown, get the second kill after the teleport. We'll get the turret as well. Even a stopwatch not going to buy you enough time, as Zonias will have to come in this game, just like in that Galio game. Fiora does get the turret top lane, but not enough to answer how many objectives Jin Air piled on.
So, great start here for Jin Air. After game one where they were looking flat, it certainly felt like to me that this could be a quick 2-0, but they're going to be fighting here up against the side of KSV. Even after giving Crown his Vel'Koz, you mentioned that Zonias, but decides to go for a needlessly large rod instead.
Big on the max AP builds today. You mentioned already in game one, but seems to be working towards a death cap in this game as well. Now the stopwatch is down, it is, of course, just occupying an item slot and will be invested in eventually, because they feel like they have to have the damage to fight early, so they can cement a position on the map. If you don't fight early and your turrets roll down in kind of the same sort of trickle-down fashion that we saw KSV pick up the turrets in game one, then you might just not have map controls. QV tries for the all-in.
Yeah, he's kind of forced into this one. He's got one more for the completion, but now he's trying to get away, and this is a Camille. You don't get away from a Camille. He's trying to fight here, but the last hook shot is going to do it. So on, now 4-0 with lots of completed items on the way.
Yeah, he picked up the kills on the teleport. Now he reads the Fiora like a book. Teddy and taking down this turret on the top side. Won't be able to get the entire damage, but Camille pushing the bot lane. A lot of good news stories for KSV. This Fiora being turned against them again. Fiora week 7, week 8, and a bit of a burden on their team. And could be just be a second turret. So much AD stacked onto So-On.
Yeah, not much they can do. It's quickly going to the side of Jin Air after a couple of successful fights. So-On. These are the moments where I'm like, yeah, this guy's actually pretty good. I mean, certainly has been with the help of his team setting up the kills for him. But now that he's 4-0, a bit of pressure on him to carry from here on out.
Hard work not done, but you can't argue with 21 minutes, 3 turrets down, nice gold lead, and also a Camille that cannot be answered by a Fiora in the side lane. Seems to be about the same spot that KSV were in their previous game, but with the added variable of So-On being oppressively far ahead, being able to go situational item in lane with the Executioner's calling, and also hit his regular item spikes faster than QV with Kleptomancy. So a lot of good news filtered around that Camille. Also has the practice teleport plays to answer the Vel'Koz, who, like we alluded to, is going to go for the death cap build. What will it actually mean in the team fight? It's going to have to be very, very safe. It's hard to imagine any skill apart from his disintegration ray hitting if he's going to actually opt in for so much damage, unless they have a very big vision advantage around an objective.
Certainly relying a lot on their initiators in Ambition and Core JJ to get the job done and create that space for KSV. But when you're behind like this against some really strong diving champions, what really are you going to do? Hopefully QV can do enough of a job to keep So-On around at least.
Was a 2-level, but now a 1-level advantage for So-On in the side lane. He's going to walk up to QV again. Just poke out the bone plating and then consider his options.
Yeah, looks like he's not going to challenge it there. I was wondering as he was moving forward, but after completing that Trinity Force, QV getting a little bit more aggressive.
See how good Jin Air's play is around the Baron. Was something that took KSV a while to claim. And here's the sideline fight again.
Here it is, the Grand Challenge, but that burst out of the Camille. But So-On still, with the Grand Challenge finishing, he does respect it, and he says, okay, well, I'll let you go this one time.
Shows more respect than I imagined, but it could have just been cooldowns not being kind to another re-engage. He backs away. He's going to be able to turn to the minion wave very shortly. Jin Air start to push up their vision. Wraith has been deadly on the Thresh so far, and if they can cement a Baron with a good Thresh hook, that'll be certainly the Thresh pick paying off. Waiting for the return to lane. Seems to be for now, Camille roaming up. Gonna take the red buff and I guess return to lane with even more artillery. Try to take down the Fiora.
Yeah, QV's got to be really careful about this. Going up against red buff, level up 4-0 Camille. Especially with the ult, you got to have your ult available if you want to take that trade. But so far, I mean, KSV definitely one of these teams that's known for playing pretty good from behind. They like to turtle up, just like the old great SKT. Everybody loves to mention that, sometimes as a meme. But yeah, they're good at, you know, coming in here, checking for vision, using what they have, you know, flag into the pit. Members just to move forward and clean up some vision.
That does frustrate the Baron attempt that Jin Air would love to turn on Stana and the Azir. Massive Baron damage. A lot of their comp when it comes to teamfight impact is less reliable than what KSV is able to field. The Olaf and the Thresh especially are definitely at their strongest point in the game, pre-30 minutes, pre-true 5v5s. So getting that vision forward, actually being able to threaten an all-in, a flanking Trinity Force, and soon to be even more with Steric's Gauge now complete. Camille, something they want to be able to wield, but like you can see, so far the vision control for Jin Air in the enemy red side jungle was pretty shallow.
Yep, all the control wards, the wall of control wards for now, adding another one up to the top side just as a connector. And you can look at this turret. I mean, this is one thing that you can definitely say about Vel'Koz, where it's like, okay, there are a bunch of champions that have great wave clear, but Vel'Koz, he's definitely one of the best, if not the best. That turret is near full health in the mid lane.
It feels like he has 2 victories on a single ability. With once you get the ability power going and death cap, as we've mentioned, the max damage AP build means even more wave clear. So before a Banner of Command or Baron buff comes in, he will solo down the waves very, very easy. A single W does the hard, heavy lifting for now. So the minion wave is pushed out in mid lane. The control wards so far are sticking, but they're looking for a hook. Doesn't get it one on Ambition.
It's actually really smart from Ambition. He knows they're thinking about a hook. You know, they're trying to bait that with all the wards, so he sees it and he just walks on by, a little bit of a drive-by from the Jarvan. He's tanky, but not tanky enough to get hooked and collapsed upon and survive.
The side lane position has changed at all. Extra Vamp Scepter coming in from QV into a Bloodthirster, going double lifesteal, you would imagine. Someone pushes up, 20 CS lead, but the kill's largely the buffer between the two, even through Kleptomancy. A lot of healing reduction on the side of Jin Air, as both Camille and the Azir have grievous wounds.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at both Fiora and the Xayah, who would love to lifesteal up a bit. KSV just holding on for dear life. They know they're behind. It's not by too much, but it's 3 Drakes and 3,000 gold.
One of the things that KSV have always been best at is losing the minimum. It's their game's plan in through so many metas. Finding a way to keep the Baron alive while 3 items are still being constructed for Ruler is their current approach. As there's the Banner, and that makes things much more tricky for Crown.
Yeah, also when you got 3 members piling on, it's hard to clear the back line, but the Banner is really the main thing, as there was no one there to help him out. So this might mean that Jin Air can finally begin to push in the vision a little bit more. We always talk about how that tier 1 mid turret is huge in terms of controlling vision around the middle of the map.
Such a buffer for map control, where if you don't have it, the minions can't provide really any extra coverage, and there's much less angles to put down vision and set up a teleport play. And it continues to push up, spotted in that, of course.
They have so many abilities that can check brushes. The Rakan, obviously the Jarvan with the flag, the Vel'Koz, push forward some really long-range abilities. Just never seems to end. It doesn't matter if they have vision. Okay, we got another fight here, as this seems to be the most fun lane to watch. So on, not wanting to allow him to get that, and actually the flash away is Cuvée thinking about it, but look at the roam here from Teddy. Looking to come down towards the bottom side. This might be enough. You notice Crown is coming too, but it might be a little bit late. Cuvée trying to get an ability onto Teddy. Can he actually get in there? No, it's not enough. The Hextech ultimatum to help finish off. Teddy with a nice little roam down to the bot lane.
And Cuvée uses flash right at the end, but wasn't able to escape after all. So they get Cuvée, all things considered. The 1v1 going better than expected. When it comes to the items, but that is just the Fiora's natural power in the 1v1, and a lot of the previous attempts were aborted. So Jin Air continue, and maybe it's time to start up the Baron. It's got to get closer and closer. They're trying to create a lose-lose scenario. Crown being drawn by someone on the bot side. Let's see what it means for Baron on the top side of the map.
Yeah. He tries to show as late as possible, also to potentially get a burst damage onto So-On. But you notice the second they see him down there, they're going to start up the Baron. QV still dead. 8 seconds until he can come back here. And look at the bottom lane. So-On just doing the work all by himself. That might just be inhibitor. We'll see if QV can get there in time to stop him, as the Baron has stopped. And So-On is going to respect that. Says, okay, I'll let you keep your inhibitor for now, at least.
They do pull away, did you know? Which is a surprise. I thought they would just return to the scene of the crime and start the Baron again to try to force the turret, but not showing confidence with the extended 1v1 trading between So-On and QV. The vision, like you mentioned, is still pretty shallow, all things considered, by Jin Air. So they back away. KSV continue to get to pile on some items. The 3-item spike is finally there for Ruler, much delayed compared to what Teddy has been able to assemble. At least now with the Zeke's convergence, there's a real chance that Ruler can out-damage Teddy in a fight.
Yeah, if they can get to a position where the fight is going to be even and on their terms. We've seen many games like this where you're struggling to get vision, and eventually one of these thresh hooks lands onto a very crucial target, and you're out of luck from there. But we'll see. QV, or rather KSV, is very good about delaying this, as we mentioned.
And Crown has been really tricky on the Vel'Koz. His play against KT Rolster in Game 2, where he was in the enemy jungle, but took the max amount of aggro and yet put out damage on the back end. You can do a lot of kiting damage to Vel'Koz with your Q and W and turn it into an all-in over the wall out of threat range from most champions. Is definitely something that's unexplored. We don't see a lot of Vel'Koz. See the Predator pop just to try to get them more vision. They would love to find a way to ward the brush behind where we were seeing Ambition defend, but so far impossible.
Teddy's got QSS, so he just laughs in the face of the Rakan right now. Says, yeah, go ahead and try to jump onto me. It's actually very well played by KSV so far, just standing their ground, but Crown now in an awkward spot doing that damage. KorJJ on the backside, but Wraith getting low as well. Has to flash into the Baron pit. So-On making his way up towards the top side here a bit faster than QV.
Everyone playing with fire, but the only person burned is Wraith. Has to use a summoner. 2 summoners used, both by Jin Air. Trying to put down vision, and the only thing they get is that single ward. And they saw the recall.
He backed on vision.
Yep.
The ward was in there. The hook is going to miss, though, so Ambition has the opportunity here. No flash on Wraith. He disappears, but now Ambition getting low. Crown is going to be jumped on. Does have that Zhonya's, but there is the Baron going over. Ruler trying his best, but is forced to flash at the end of it all. So in the end, Jin Air get the best of that trade.
The single ward ends up being so important because it spots KorJJ, who can't be there for the contest. First Baron of the series goes the way of Jin Air. And now it's 4-item Tristana with the Baron. They knew Rakan was in base. Fiora predictably wasn't grouped either. They go for the attempt to get there. They may blow up the no flash Thresh, but there's no threat at all in terms of getting to the Baron. They pick up the Baron. They got the exit kills as well. Success from Jin Air that was thwarted for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah, lots of summoners burned as well. Double flash, both Ambition and Ruler being forced to use theirs as well. Jin Air, it took a little bit, you know, it took a while to get to a point where they could actually go for the Baron, but just a small little play at the highest level. That's really where you see this happen. Just 1 ward in the red buff.
Also feels like it could be a max value Baron because they have double Banner of Command and a level 17 Tristana. So with her flash up, with the Merc Scimitar available, so many sieging options open for Jin Air, and as we well know, on patch 8.4, there is an all-in and really no other way to answer that particular threat. We already saw the woes of Umti in Game 1 trying to engage against the scenario, and here we go. It's the Zoo top lane.
That's just way too much stuff. I don't care if you're packing a Vel'Koz, especially with the Baroned up Ben and minions.
Cannon's first objective taken down. The minion wave largely crashed though, so Xayah feels strong enough to walk up.
Yeah, Teddy taking a little bit of damage too. So they move up, take that away. Curious to see the state of the bottom side. Looks like Kive is doing okay. Fiora begins to get really scary at some point.
Continues to build for the 1v1, whereas the Warden's Mail will help the 1v1, but it's a bit more teamfight itemization coming through from So1. See if any hard objectives come up for Jin Air. It's a start to pick up the inner turret, but breaking the base is what you want, especially when double Banner of Command is available.
Yeah, so far the hold has been good. I want to make a play towards the bottom side. There's no turret. Grace getting some free damage in the front. Kind of interesting how he was allowed to do that, but the bannered up minion is doing its work. Will finally be taken out here.
Continue to play around. 45 seconds to the last minion wave or so of this particular Baron buff push. They drew the Crown bot lane, so it's only 3 members defending.
So the poke coming in, but again in the bottom lane. Oh boy, Ruler taking that damage. Now moving forward, almost baits Core JJ in, and certainly after taking that damage, the turret's gonna go down. Look at the bottom side also, the inhibitor goes down.
3 turrets down, 2 inhibitors down. KSV up to that desperation point, no all-in, because of course the Fiora offers little when it comes to the engage. They back away with 3 inhibitors taken, and it feels like they're knocking on the door of forcing a 6-game night. And a Game 2 victory for Jin Air. It's close to must-win territory for them. They have a very difficult schedule, and Jin Air is still in there with a chance right next to SKT of breaking into the top 5. So they need to be controlled about this game. They cannot afford to drop this series.
Yeah, so 10,000 gold head, 4 Drakes. Looking for that Elder would be a fantastic buff to pick up to essentially put the nail in the coffin at this point. Teddy is he's having the game, a really fun game, I should say. He's pretty much all farmed up. He's nearing that Fountain Laser status. 1 more item would do it, but gonna take the red buff first. And how do you really come back from here as KSV? Is there really any hope for these guys? I guess they would need the perfect engage onto someone like Teddy, or maybe even Grace.
I mean, a massive mistake, but that's of course not something to really talk about. Cuve just really has no role in this game. He's 0-3-0, he has a lot of sick items, but getting value as the Fiora is so tricky in a farming phase. Ruler, oh boy.
Well, this time Umti in the front lines actually does something. Looks a lot better than on the Jags. He's just always slowing down Ruler and allowing Teddy to get into range to just do 1 auto, and that's really all it takes to threaten the life of an AD carry at this point.
2 minion waves pushing in, 3rd one on the way.
Yeah, nicely timed here. Gonna get to work onto that last turret. You're gonna have to make an engage at some point, but in the front line, Core JJ is gonna be locked down, and Cuve getting low as well. The riposte helps him out. The disintegration ray does a bit of damage, but it's not enough. Grace gonna get a double kill on the backside, making a triple as Core JJ trying not to die, but eventually does. We're all tied up here, 1-1 between these 2 teams.
And crazily, a lot of overlap in games between Game 1 and Game 2. If anything, Jin Air was more decisive in closing out the game. They got the Baron, they rolled high, they did very well in the closing. A lot of good news stories. Grace looking amazing on the Azir. Multiple points in this game. Umti predictably gets the Olaf for the 2nd time and picks up an MVP. And now pick and ban with KSV back on blue side will be very interesting for game number 3. Engineering away for them to get a decent trade in the jungle. They will not want to get the Jax again. They'll want more firepower. Maybe they'll leave open the Sejuani or Zac to come through for the side of Ambition, but they need to find something Olaf-esque, because Olaf himself surely will be banned.
Yeah, MT looking a lot better on one of those champions you should be more comfortable on. Instead of that Jax, KSV just looked a little bit stunned after that game. The Vel'Koz earning its 1st loss today. Will now sit at 3-1. And I don't think we're going to see the Fiora again, Papa. Hasn't really been looking good, especially when it gets behind. But either way, guys, we're going to go to another commercial break. When we come back, the final game of the night, Game 3 between these 2 teams.